For more than a year and a half, Australia has been shut off from the world, leaving our citizens locked out and locked in. At long last, though, there is a plan to get international travel back up and running. But will our stranded expats be able to get home in time for Christmas?
I've been waiting on tender hooks to find out when I can actually go home.
I was unfortunately trapped there for much longer than I expected.
Australia will be ready for takeoff very soon.
We have everything crossed that this Christmas will be the most special one we've ever had.
When Anton and his wife found out they were having another baby, they wanted their little girl to be born in Australia.
So I put her on a plane as soon as we could. So 1st of May, we got her tickets with my son to go and quarantine in Australia. And the plan was I would come back in August. I got trapped. I was unfortunately trapped there for much longer than I expected.
Anton missed the birth of his daughter.
It was quite an emotional time, but seeing my baby girl born on FaceTime, that was quite an experience. And I promised myself to get there as quickly as possible.
He flew around the world and tried everything.
Desperate times, called for desperate measures and started to explore things like traveling by container ship, traveling by yacht, canoe, and looking at a charter plane.
And he's now in hotel quarantine, waiting to be reunited with his family.
There was a lot of problem solving. Gone are the days of just booking a flight home and being there and just dealing with, you're stuck in economy, you have to deal with kids. That's just like the least of your worries now. There's so much paperwork, especially with Australia, there's no direct flights. You have to have a strategy for how you're going to get back. And things are changing on a daily basis.
While people like Anton can't get in, others can't leave.
It just keeps changing and it's a lot for the emotion.
Anna hasn't seen her family in the UK for 2 years.
I made a commitment to myself when I moved out here that I would always go back to the UK once a year to visit my family. And when that's taken away, I've never felt so isolated and have struggled to clearly call Australia my home when I'm missing that connection with my family.
She's decided to wait for more certainty.
I am hopeful, but I'm also hesitant. I'm definitely going to wait until Christmas, after Christmas has happened, because I'm also don't know what the costs of the flights are going to be to get home. It's really difficult when you also then have to put a price on how much you want to see your family when you haven't seen them for 2.5 years.
560 days after closing off our country from the world, the Prime Minister has announced plans to resume international travel next month.
The PM has announced a plan. From November, Aussies who are double-dosed can leave the country if 80% of their state's population is vaccinated.
It's time to give Australians their lives back.
But each state has to come on board.
New South Wales and Victoria will not only be open to each other and open internally, will be open to the world also. And I think that's a very, very good thing.
I'm not going to agree to anything when I haven't seen any formal paperwork, Lydia. It would be irresponsible, and I think Queenslanders would expect me to see some paperwork to understand the issues before an announcement is made.
The question is, well, how can you go to Bali or Fiji, but you can't go to Queensland?
If some states can and will open, well, they should.
Margie Osmond from the Tourism and Transport Forum.
Look, I think we're going to see a number of those expats be able to come home, but it is going to be largely dependent upon what happens with caps in terms of how many people can come into various states and what will happen with aviation capacity.
At the moment, only around 3,500 people are allowed to return to Australia every week. That means some airlines are flying with as few as 10 passengers per plane. Darwin is doing the heavy lifting, accepting 1,000 people per week from overseas. Sydney is currently only allowing 750 arrivals. Queensland can take up to 650. 500 are allowed to arrive every week in Victoria, while Perth and Adelaide will only allow 265 arrivals in their states.
Look, there's no doubt that there's been a tremendous blow to people's travelling confidence domestically, and one can only imagine once we start up again internationally. But having said that, there's massive pent-up demand.
Everything is crossed. We've had flights booked every 6 months in the hope that things would change.
Gian and her family live in Singapore.
We love being an expat, but at the same time, we've always travelled. We've always made sure we've brought our kids home to Australia to their family because that's so important to us. So never in a million years did I think that I would be isolated from my family for this long.
Despite over a year of trying to get home to Sydney, Gian can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
We prepare for the best case scenario, but we're always prepared as well for the worst case scenario. So we've told the kids many times now, we've got flights booked. We have flights for Christmas. Whether or not we're allowed to board that flight, well, that's up to the government.
I hope to see you soon for Christmas. I kiss you. Yay!
Yeah, and let's hope that all states work towards opening borders at that 80% mark so we can start getting all Aussies back home.